Welcome back, Sugar Bee family. Just when we thought the drama couldn't get any richer, the Gilded Age drops a bombshell preview for episode 5, and at the heart of it all is Marian Brook, who's finally had enough. From secret affairs and social climbing to power plays and heartbreak, this new episode promises explosive confrontations that shake the foundation of New York's elite. And yes, Marian is done with Bertha, with societal games, and maybe even with love. Let's break down everything the episode 5 trailer reveals, in full, scandalous detail. First off, the Russell house was in complete chaos in episode 4 because Gladys was marrying the Duke of Buckingham. While Bertha was practically glowing with pride, no one else seemed remotely thrilled. Gladys especially looked like she'd rather vanish than walk down that aisle. Her locking herself in her room before the ceremony was basically her attempt to survive all this. While Bertha tried to brush it off, it was clear everyone knew something was wrong. Even George finally stepped in, telling Gladys she didn't have to go through with the wedding. That moment between them was heartbreaking, but it came far too late. She'd already given up, and this feels like the beginning of her demise. Yes, Gladys gets married, but it's a joyless, painful event. She cries her way down the aisle and whispers the saddest "I do" in TV history. And just like that, we cut to her sailing off to England with a man she can barely stand. She's isolated, heartbroken, and now living in a foreign country. It's clear this is the beginning of her downward spiral. Depression, alcohol, it's all coming. And it doesn't help that her new sister-in-law, Sarah, is intense, to say the least. She won't leave the newlyweds alone. Honestly, there's something deeply off about her dynamic with the Duke. Their relationship is weirdly close in all the wrong ways. I'm calling it now. Sarah's going to make Gladys's life hell in episode 5. But despite everything, the trailer for episode 5 gives us a sliver of hope. At first, Gladys will be spiraling, turning to alcohol to cope. But she'll meet someone new, someone who gives her hope. This new relationship reminds her of who she is. Even though Bertha has disappointed her, she is still Bertha and George's one and only daughter. And she got all the ambitious genes from her parents. So, she is strong, driven, and capable of rebuilding. It sets her on a new path, one where she rises above it all. Meanwhile, her brother Larry is trying to avoid falling into the same trap. He pushes back against Bertha, convincing her to let Marian be a bridesmaid, despite Bertha insisting Marian wasn't appropriate. Thankfully, Larry stands his ground. But this is just the beginning. Bertha is still determined to shut down Marian and Larry's relationship, and things are about to get messy. She will turn life into hell for the young couple in episode 5, forcing Marian's aunts to intervene in support of their niece, which will lead to a whole new fight between two powerful families in society. Then we meet Monica O'Brien, Bertha's estranged sister. Let me just say, I love her. She's everything Bertha isn't. Down-to-earth, anti-status, totally unbothered by high society nonsense. And Bertha hates it. It's clear Monica reminds her of her past, the girl she used to be before wealth and power took over. Monica's presence is going to challenge Bertha hard in episode 5, forcing her to confront who she's become. Let's be real, Monica might be the key to softening Bertha enough to accept Larry and Marian's relationship, or at least understand it. Over at the Astor house, things are falling apart fast. Mrs. Astor is reeling from gossip columns reporting that her daughter Charlotte is having an affair, and that her husband fought a duel over it. Desperate to shut the story down, Mrs. Astor tells Charlotte she can't attend the wedding. But Charlotte isn't having it. She throws everything back in her mother's face, calling out the hypocrisy and cruelty of their entire situation. In episode 5, Mrs. Astor will be hit by yet another development when Bertha pushes to remove the ban on divorced women attending the balls. Chaos will break loose for sure. On a different note, let's talk about Jack. Our sweet inventor has struck gold, literally. He sells his alarm clock design and makes $300,000. That's life-changing money. But instead of celebrating, he's overwhelmed. This house has been his only home, and now everything's changing. Mrs. Bauer tells him to keep it quiet for now, but based on the episode 5 trailer, that secret won't last long. Marian Brook has long played the role of the gracious guest, the polite niece, and the agreeable woman expected to bend to the will of New York society. But all of that changes in episode 5. The trailer teases a defining moment. One that may finally pull Marian out of the shadows and into her power. In episode 4, the cracks were already beginning to show. Bertha Russell publicly slighted Marian by refusing to allow her a role in Gladys's wedding. It wasn't just an oversight, it was a statement. Bertha, obsessed with status and appearances, viewed Marian as an unworthy presence, a blemish on her carefully curated social climb. Worse, she barely hid her disdain, casting judgmental glances and veiled insults that everyone, especially Marian, could feel. It was a public shaming wrapped in social elegance, and Marian had no choice but to swallow the humiliation with a smile. But that smile is gone now. Episode 5 opens with Marian walking through the grand marble hallway of the Russell home, head held high, her footsteps echoing with resolve. This isn't the same woman who once flinched under Bertha's gaze. Her entrance into Bertha's opulent parlor is deliberate. She doesn't hesitate. She doesn't ask permission. She arrives, and with purpose. The trailer gives us the first taste of the confrontation we've been waiting for. Marian, calm yet visibly furious, locks eyes with Bertha and says, "I'm not a piece to be moved around on your chessboard." The words hit like a thunderclap. The air in the room changes. And for the first time in a long while, Bertha Russell is speechless. This is a pivotal moment not just for the story, but for Marian as a character. She has been treated like a pawn in other people's games for far too long. Bertha tried to manipulate her. Society tried to mold her. Even her own aunts, Agnes and Ada, often enforced the rules of decorum that kept Marian boxed in. But now she's stepping outside that box. This confrontation marks the beginning of Marian's rebellion, not against society at large, but against the parts of it that have demanded her silence and submission. She's no longer interested in being seen as respectable if it means compromising her values or her heart. And it's not just about Bertha, it's about reclaiming her agency in a world designed to take it from her. For viewers, it's both cathartic and empowering to see Marian push back. The trailer leaves us with Bertha's frozen reaction, which says it all. This isn't the Marian she thought she had under control. This chapter will likely ripple across the rest of the season. Marian's boldness may alienate her from polite society, but it may also earn her new allies, and maybe even rekindle the spark with Larry Russell, if he can prove himself worthy of her trust. One thing is certain, Marian is done being polite. And in episode 5, we'll see exactly what happens when a woman who's been underestimated for too long finally takes a stand. Once poised as the potential love story that would rise above the rigid rules of Gilded Age society, the romance between Larry Russell and Marian Brook is now beginning to unravel, and fast. What began with shy glances and shared ideals is now being threatened by external pressures, internal doubts, and the relentless interference of Bertha Russell, Larry's formidable mother. Bertha has always been a master strategist when it comes to social climbing, but in episode 5, her efforts are focused not on social events or alliances, but on destroying her own son's romance. To Bertha, Marian is a poor match, no wealth, no title, and worst of all, no utility in Bertha's grand social plans. Her dislike for Marian isn't just personal, it's tactical. In her eyes, Marian represents regression, an emotional entanglement that could distract Larry from his destiny. The trailer for episode 5 offers a telling scene, Larry and George Russell in a tense, private argument, with George attempting to play the role of the neutral patriarch. But Larry is visibly frustrated, even disillusioned. He loves Marian, but he's growing weary of the constant push and pull between loyalty to his mother and devotion to the woman he loves. George, often more reasonable than Bertha, tries to mediate, but even he cannot deny that Bertha's manipulations are beginning to corrode their family from the inside. Meanwhile, Marian is left isolated and confused. A scene from the trailer shows her opening an envelope, an anonymous letter, its contents unknown but clearly upsetting. The implication is that it's an attack on Larry's character or his intentions, possibly suggesting he's not being honest with her. While we don't know the full content yet, the most likely culprit behind the letter is Bertha herself, or someone acting on her behalf. The psychological toll on Marian is evident. She's already dealing with the sting of being snubbed from Gladys's wedding and now must question the integrity of the one man she thought she could trust. Her expression in the trailer is telling. Haunted, unsure, and heartbroken. Larry, too, appears to be spiraling. In another brief clip, he's seen standing alone on the Russell balcony, cigarette in hand, staring into the dark New York night. His relationship with Marian is slipping through his fingers, and he doesn't know how to stop it. The heartbreak here isn't just romantic, it's existential. Both Marian and Larry are being forced to ask, do we belong in the same world? Is love enough when society, family, and fortune are all pushing you apart? Their love once represented hope, a future where new money and old values could blend, where feeling mattered more than legacy. But in episode 5, that dream hangs by a thread. This chapter of the story promises raw emotion, painful choices, and perhaps a breakup that will reshape the rest of the season. The question now is whether Larry will fight for Marian, or finally fold under the weight of his mother's control. For much of the Gilded Age, Agnes Van Ryn has been the voice of old money propriety, a woman governed by tradition, reputation, and a steely resolve to keep her family's name above reproach. But in episode 5, even Agnes reaches her breaking point. And surprisingly, the reason isn't some scandal in her social circle, it's Bertha Russell's ruthless treatment of Marian. Though Agnes and Marian haven't always seen eye to eye, Agnes often criticizing her niece for being too idealistic, too romantic, too progressive, there's no denying the quiet pride she has always held for the young woman. Marian, despite all odds, has maintained dignity, grace, and heart in a world designed to beat those qualities out of women. And now, after witnessing the series of humiliations Bertha has orchestrated against Marian, Agnes is no longer content to stand on the sidelines. Episode 5's trailer gives us a brief but electrifying scene. Agnes seated in her parlor, flanked by Aurora Fane and several other key figures from New York's elite. The tension in the room is thick. Silver trays of tea and petit fours sit untouched as the women speak in hushed, deliberate tones. The subject? Bertha Russell. The goal? To reclaim society from the grasp of the nouveau riche, and more specifically, from Bertha's iron fist. This isn't just gossip over scones, it's a declaration of war. Agnes is mobilizing her network, calling on women who still carry the weight of tradition and influence. She argues that Bertha's behavior isn't just offensive, it's dangerous. If left unchecked, Bertha will reshape society in her image, one where money overrides morals, and social power is a game of manipulation rather than grace. What's fascinating about this development is how much Agnes has evolved. In season 1, she would have never dreamed of defending Marian so publicly, especially not against someone as influential as Bertha. But now, she sees Marian in a different light. Marian is no longer just her niece, she's a symbol of a generation unwilling to bend to tyranny. A young woman who stands up, speaks out, and refuses to be used as a pawn. Agnes's support also signals a larger shift in the power dynamics of the show. The old guard, once content to watch the rise of the Russells with disdain and silence, is finally preparing to fight back. And at the center of this resistance is a woman who has rarely sought the spotlight, but now commands it. Aurora, ever the diplomatic bridge between both worlds, encourages Agnes's campaign but also warns her, Bertha is not easily defeated. This battle may come with consequences, for Marian, for the Van Ryn name, and for the very foundation of New York society. Still, Agnes is undeterred. For the first time in the series, she seems willing to risk her name, her influence, and even her carefully protected pride for the sake of someone else. Agnes has chosen her side. And this time it's Marian's. Bertha Russell, once the unshakable force of social dominance in the Gilded Age, is starting to lose her grip, and the fall from the top is never graceful. For 2 seasons, Bertha has been a woman of calculated moves, unwavering confidence, and razor-sharp ambition. She's faced down gatekeepers, conquered elite circles, and elevated the Russell name into the highest echelon of New York society. But in episode 5, the carefully constructed empire she built on wealth, fear, and relentless manipulation is beginning to crack. The biggest crack comes in the form of a woman from Bertha's past, Monica O'Brien, her estranged sister. Monica doesn't care about pearls, palaces, or proximity to power. She's raw, outspoken, and, most importantly, authentic. In the trailer, we see her addressing a crowd at what appears to be a public lecture or charity event. Her speech is fiery and fearless, aimed directly at the double standards and performative values of the New York elite. While Monica never mentions her sister by name, Bertha's shadow looms large over every word. The murmurs among the crowd say it all: the Queen of New Money has a scandal in her bloodline, and the gossip begins to swirl. Bertha, so obsessed with public perception, is rattled. For the first time, she can't control the narrative. Monica isn't a socialite that can be paid off or a journalist who can be bought. She's family. And she's got the truth, and the guts, to expose everything Bertha has buried. As Bertha tries to contain the damage, her attention is split in the worst way. Across the ocean, Gladys, her pride and joy, is floundering in a loveless, joyless marriage to the Duke of Buckingham. What was meant to be Bertha's crowning achievement, marrying her daughter into nobility, has become a nightmare. Gladys is isolated, miserable, and now the subject of whispers in English society. Word of her unhappiness is beginning to trickle back home, and Bertha can't even offer her daughter comfort. She's too busy putting out fires on her own front lawn. The trailer delivers one of the most striking images we've ever seen of Bertha Russell, standing alone in her grand dressing room, screaming at her reflection in the mirror. Her voice shakes, her composure is gone, and the woman who once demanded control of every room now looks completely unmoored. It's not just frustration, it's fear. Fear that her world is slipping away. That the influence she fought for is no longer enough. That the people she once ruled with intimidation are starting to push back. This is not the Bertha we've come to know. This is a woman unraveling. Between Monica's rebellion, Gladys's suffering, Larry's defiance, and Marian's resistance, Bertha's kingdom is cracking at every corner. Her allies are dwindling. Her enemies are growing. And for the first time in this Gilded Age war, Bertha Russell might be losing the battle. As the trailer for the Gilded Age Season 3, Episode 5 reaches its final moments, the tone shifts. The chaos, betrayal, and heartbreak that surround Marian Brook give way to something quieter, but far more powerful. We see her at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, standing alone in front of a grand portrait, lost in thought. It's a striking image. The same Marian who once struggled to find her voice in drawing rooms full of judgment is now standing still, grounded, and contemplative. This is not a woman who's broken, this is a woman on the brink of reinvention. The painting she gazes at is unknown for now, but the symbolism is clear. Marian is no longer just reacting to the world around her, she's seeking something of her own. Something deeper than marriage prospects, social climbing, or her aunt's approval. The museum scene introduces a new character. A man, possibly a curator or art critic, who exchanges a few words with Marian. His presence is brief in the trailer, but his demeanor is gentle and intelligent, a stark contrast to the rigid suitors and toxic influences she's encountered in high society. Is this a new love interest? Possibly. But more importantly, he may represent a doorway, a path toward intellectual fulfillment, artistic purpose, or emotional honesty. For the first time, Marian isn't being seen as someone's niece, someone's love interest, or someone's pawn in a social chess game. She's being seen as herself. The moment is punctuated by a voiceover, soft yet resolute: to survive in this world, you must stop asking for permission. It's unclear who says it, Marian herself, perhaps, but the message lands with weight. It speaks not just to Marian's situation, but to the journey she's been on since the very beginning of the series. For too long, she's lived in the shadow of others' expectations. Agnes's rules, Bertha's cruelty, society's rigid codes. Now, she's stepping into the light. Marian's decision to forge her own path doesn't mean she's abandoning love or family, but it does mean she's no longer willing to compromise her soul for acceptance. She may still love Larry Russell, but she now understands that love must come with respect, autonomy, and partnership, not secrecy, not power games, and certainly not Bertha's approval. This shift also suggests that Marian may take a more active role in the season's unfolding conflicts. She's no longer passive. If Bertha continues to stand in her way, Marian might finally push back with the full strength of her own voice, and possibly with the backing of unexpected allies like Monica O'Brien, or even her formerly skeptical Aunt Agnes. Whatever happens next, one thing is clear: Marian Brook has outgrown the cage she was placed in. Whether it's through art, independence, or a romance on her own terms, she's choosing a future defined not by what society wants, but by who she truly is. And that, in the world of the Gilded Age, is the boldest move of all. And that's the full breakdown of the Gilded Age Season 3, Episode 5 trailer. This is shaping up to be the most emotionally charged episode of the season, filled with rebellion, reckoning, and unexpected alliances. Are you rooting for Marian's escape? Will Bertha lose her grip? Or is this just the calm before an even bigger storm? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe to Sugar Bee for your weekly dose of Gilded Age drama, scandal, and secrets. Until next time, stay classy, and stay curious.